This is a $100 bill, the largest denomination bill that we use today, the only one without a president on it, and that's because Benjamin Franklin has taken his spot. And I'm here to tell you today what Benjamin Franklin did to deserve such an iconic place in history. Now, many people have changed America for the better in the way that we live. Some have written and helped write important documents which shaped the United States. Other people have invented useful tools to make our life easier, and others made scientific discoveries that were life-saving. But Benjamin Franklin did all three of these things better than anybody in his time period. Now, Benjamin Franklin was very knowledgeable about politics and foreign policies. That's why he was the only person that signed the Declaration of Independence, the Treaty of Paris, and the U.S. Constitution. Now, he lived in for the better part of the 1700s. He was born in 1706, and he was the 15th child in his family. Because of this, the financial situation wasn't where it could have been. At 10 years old, he had to drop out of school, and he started working for his dad's printing business. He liked it, started writing his own articles and selling them to create a profit. That was the first money that he made. At age 17 is when he got on a boat and told the captain that he got a girl pregnant and needed to leave. The boat was going to Philadelphia, so that's where Benjamin Franklin ended up. Soon after moving to Philadelphia, he took a voyage to England to master his printing skills, and when he came back, he decided it was time to profit from his knowledge. Him and his friend, Hugh Meredith, bought a business called the Pennsylvania Gazette. It was a newspaper business that wasn't doing very well, and then once Franklin's articles started getting in there, it started selling well, and now that he became financially stable, he was ready to start experimenting. Now, Benjamin Franklin was a very modest guy who didn't like to boast or brag about his accomplishments, but he was one of the most influential scientists of all time. He tried to keep most of his results and experiments private, and the only reason that we do know of them is because from a list of letters to his friend Peter Collison that are published, but he never in his wildest dreams thought that they would be published. After his death, he was voted one of the 14 best scientists of all time. His favorite subject in science would be meteorology, where he spent most of his time. He was the first person to really take this seriously, and some of his inventions as far as meteorology goes are the barometer, the thermometer, and the hydrometer. Although he was such an influential scientist, he really didn't like taking credit. In his autobiography, he merely mentions that he liked to experiment but doesn't go into any detail. One thing that he does mention in his autobiography is his inventions. One of Franklin's first inventions was the Franklin stove. Before this, you could only heat one room and it would take a lot of wood. The Franklin stove allowed you to heat an entire house with a lot less wood. Bifocals was another invention of his, which came from his need to see far and close without keep switching back and forth to his glasses. The lightning rod was a very important invention. As soon as he had it, everybody in his town wanted one. Harmonica, you could also add that to the list of inventions. Now, like I said, Benjamin Franklin lived in the 1700s, so he didn't have all the tools we have today to implement everything he wanted to, but he did have a vision for the future and what he thought it should be like. He was the first person to put together a fire department in a hospital, and that was just from volunteers, non-profit. Another thing that he had a vision for was disease control, and also he was one of the first people to look at fossils. Brewing beer was also a hobby of his, and he knew that it could be taken to the next level. He just didn't have the technology to do it. The streets in his day were all dirt, which made them very hard to maneuver on, especially when it rained. So he was the first person to come up with paving roads. When he was in the prime of his life, he was a slave owner, but one of his final accomplishments was to help abolish slavery. And in 1790, when he finally died, at his funeral there was 200 plus people, so that just goes to show you how influential of a man Benjamin Franklin was.